Hello everyone and welcome to our second webinar organized by Atelier Privé, Dubai Media Holding, which covers investment, art of living, real estate and luxury lifestyle in the Middle East for a global audience. And today we'll be talking about restaurant business. And we have a great lineup. And before I invite our guest speakers and before I introduce them, just a couple of things for the ones who are watching us today. We are broadcasting live this webinar in different platforms. So if you follow us on YouTube, you can leave your comments and your questions. We'll be following those questions here. And at the end of the webinar, we will ask our guest speakers your questions so you have an opportunity to participate live. You can also follow this webinar on our official page on Instagram and LinkedIn, and you also have an opportunity to ask your questions there, leave your comments. You're always welcome to participate. I also remind you that the recording of this webinar will be available on our official platforms, so you can always watch the video afterwards. So let me introduce our speakers. So let's start first with Kristina Pogulaeva, General Manager at Sakhalin Dubai. Hello, Kristina. Thank you for joining us today. I'll also introduce Alexei Vershinin, the Executive Chief at Sakhalin Dubai. Hello, Alexei. And our third guest is Lionel Joel, the Senior Account Partner at GPH Public Relations. Hi, Lionel. Again, thank you for joining us. We will have a few questions to discuss today in our roundtable. And then, as I mentioned before, we can also talk to our audience if they have questions as well. So, restaurant business is definitely something very interesting for very broad audience because everyone, at least once in their life, visited the top restaurants. So, let's talk a little bit more about this business in Dubai and Middle East in general. Let me start with the first question, general question. Considering the popularity of Dubai among many people all around the world, do you think that Dubai is already one of the world's leading restaurant capitals? And if you think so, why? And maybe you have a different opinion, then why not? So in this case, ladies first, let's start with Christina, and then let's go with the rest of the speakers. Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Maybe we can start with Joel.
Yeah.
Then probably yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I have to agree with the fact that Dubai is up there. Obviously, I think number one, I think the idea was to bring all of these like major restaurant names to the region, and I think Dubai did that like very well. And additionally, over the years, you see now that there's a lot more homegrown brands that are being discovered, that are being created, and those are actually going the other way around. So you see brands now making a name big enough to now go open in London and New York and all of these different places. So for sure, I think the answer to that is Dubai is definitely up there, and yeah, it just keeps growing.
All right. Thank you, Lionel. It looks like we may have some sound issues with Christina and Alexei because they're telling me that they can't hear me. So let me just send them the message
No worries.
because, as far as I understand, you can hear me well, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mm, okay. Um, okay. Alexei, can you hear me?
No, I don't think he can hear you either.
All right, let's try to figure that out. In the meantime, let's just continue our talk about the
Yeah,
restaurant business. So, one of the things that I wanted to also ask about social media topic, because I think that social
yeah,
media right now is definitely one of the main tools that any business use in order to promote themselves. Hello, guys. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I hear you,
Yes.
Rostislav.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So it was just the first question. Let me finish the second question. We were talking about social media, and I was talking about social media as one of the tools that any business right now use in order to promote themselves. And one of the things that I wanted to mention during this webinar, do you think that social media changed the restaurant business for the better or for the worse? Because many times you can see any restaurant in their Instagram account, a lot of pictures of their dishes, of their interior, and it looks all the time, it looks perfect. And sometimes it doesn't really meet the expectations of the people. And sometimes it works other way around. Maybe it's not so perfect account, but when you give it a try, you see that it's actually a great restaurant. So, do you see that it somehow influenced the restaurant business? So, let's start with Christina, as it was meant to be in the first question, and then let's move on with Alexei. So, what do you think about this topic?
Yes, thank you for question, Rostislav. To my point of view, basically social media has changed in both ways our industry, in a good and in a bad way at the same time. So in a good way that we have basically achieve, the new audience and the new guests throughout the social medias. But at the same time, some of the restaurant, I think, to my opinion, very much concentrated into Instagrammable food and Instagrammable drinks, which is, to my point of view, a bit too much, especially here in UAE, as we can see that everybody is following the trends, forgetting about the things that the most important in restaurants is basically the quality of the food service and the atmosphere.
Okay, great. And actually, it also was one of my next questions, so I will come back to it. Alexei, what do you think about social media marketing as a tool in restaurant business? Your microphone is off. Yeah, now
Hello,
it's working.
everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, I would say the same as Christina, but uh, and I think the social media for now in Dubai gives talented chefs and restaurant an opportunity to reach the guests directly. Uh, a small restaurant can become internationally recognized, for example, very quickly. So actually, that's it.
Okay, thank you. I already have a next question as well, but it's very interesting regarding social media. Lionel, what do you think about social media marketing in that sense?
I think so for our industry, obviously social media has been a big help in terms of doing some of the legwork to get a lot of our venues and the brands that we manage, and I think everyone in the PR industry, it's helped us kind of push. And as Alexi said, it eases the interaction between restaurant, either whether it's a chef or whatever the restaurants are doing behind the scenes to make it what it is to the public. I think it eases that, and it's a great way for people to see what actually goes on. But at the same time, as Christina said, there is that negative part to it because everyone is chasing that viral moment, right? Everyone wants that product that's super viral and that everyone's going to line up for. And I think that creates kind of this weird experience for customers who don't necessarily chase the trends, right? So I'm personally, as when I think of myself as a customer, I like to go to a restaurant and experience all of these things: the great food, the great atmosphere, great drinks, and so on and so forth. I don't necessarily, I'm not the type to really stand in a line and wait for a big croissant or whatever it is. So I do get both sides, but I think from an industry perspective, obviously we're very thankful to social media for the way it's allowed us to speak directly to the customer.
Yeah, I totally agree that it's a great tool to get a broader audience, but at the same time, and it was one of my questions. Do you think or do you notice that sometimes restaurants pay much more attention to their social media presence instead of their main product and service itself? And sometimes you have this balance that you have a great account, great production, great videos and pictures, but when you actually go there, you realize that the service is probably not so good, the quality of the food is probably not superior, and then you have a certain disappointment. Uh, do you think that sometimes some of the companies and some of the restaurants face this problem? In this case, Alexei, maybe you could start.
Yeah, of course. I have opinion on this. Sometimes creates this situation creates the pressure to design food or the camera instead of the plate, and dish may look, I would say, impressive in a 10 seconds video, but not deliver enough flavor when you actually can eat it. Social media is, I would say, powerful tool, but it shouldn't communicate the restaurant
Okay, thank
identity,
you.
not control it.
Sure. Leonel, do you face the same problem, for example, like in the PR industry regarding restaurant business?
Yeah, I think so. From my experience, I've noticed that look, a lot of restaurants they live by this survival kind of atmosphere, right? It's about surviving, especially in a place like Dubai where there's so many new concepts coming up every day. There's new restaurants, it's almost like this bottleneck of different types of restaurants and trying to make it. So I understand why a lot of restaurants will lean to look towards that viral moment or making sure that and not maybe looking at the finer details. But I think at the end of the day, the customer knows, right? A customer will walk in, will experience your food, will experience your atmosphere, no matter what it looks like on social media. Word of mouth is going to get around, and unfortunately, if the product itself is not as good, then you're going to get that feedback regardless of how your social media looks, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree. Christina, what do you think about this kind of issue? I guess we can say it's a certain issue for many people.
I have a very good example. I was thinking while Leonel and Alexei was answering. Maybe someone of you remember there is still or there was a great actually chain of restaurants, international one, Nusret,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the exactly the perfect sample when the restaurant been very focused on Instagrammable and very focused on social media instead of the quality and ambience. So basically, this is the result, and as a result, we can see that at some stage, I think at the beginning it was really, really very famous internationally, and after that, it becomes to the end. So the business is closed by the end of the day, since I think 1 year or maybe 2 years. And the product was good, and the presentation was nice, but I think that the owners, the management was really concentrated on social media too much instead of
Mhm.
the ambience and the quality of service and food, to my opinion.
It's a great example. It's always good to see some real examples from the market. And just before I move to the next question, which is linked to the previous topic, I just want to remind our people because we already have over 150 people watching us from different platforms that you can participate and ask your questions. And as I said, at the end of our questions, we'll go through your opinions, feedback, so you can participate. That was a great example that Christina just mentioned regarding an average restaurant with probably good service, but too much attention towards social media. But for example, when we talk about PR management, do you think that it's actually possible for an average restaurant, doesn't necessarily need to be a bad restaurant, average restaurant, but become great just because of the proper, well-designed PR strategy. In this case, probably we could start with Leonel. I guess you have some examples regarding this topic, and then let's move on
Yeah.
with Christine and Alexei.
Yeah, I think obviously because this has been my industry for the past 13 years, I would have to agree and say yes, of course. Look, I think everything that happens within a restaurant is either PR or marketing, right? I know people talk about those hand in hand, and we won't go into the differences between the two industries, but everything goes hand in hand, right? So as your PR person, can do all the wonders in the world. I can, get you on every single magazine. But if someone walks into your restaurant and your plating is not as good, or your tablecloths are dirty. I mean, I've personally walked into a restaurant where, there's stains on the white tablecloths and things like that, right? Which leaves a bad taste in a customer's mind. So yes, it is important, but I think that it's it's a collaboration between the PR and the restaurant itself. If that communication is broken, then the communication towards the customer is also broken at the same time. And lastly, I think that what some restaurants don't understand is that PR is a long game, right? It's not something that you can do for 1 or 2 months and then stop and then say, okay, I'm going to stop right here. I'll pick it up again. No, I think people need to hear your voice, especially in a market again like Dubai. You need to speak your voice as much as possible and as many times as possible, because people forget very quickly, right? They move on to the next thing. The newcomer to the market, things like that. Those are the ones that make sound. So if you're quiet, for example, during the summer, what I notice in our industry is during the summer, a lot of restaurants will say, no, we're going to stop. We'll pick it up again at the end of September, where people come back. But that 3-month period, or however long it is, however long the summer runs, is also very important for your business. So if you're not saying anything in those 3 months, people will forget. No matter what kind of, what the name brand is, people will move on and people will forget. So I think it's important to continue that conversation, throughout the year.
I definitely agree that it's a lifetime process.
Yeah.
And from my personal experience, when I see a good pure communication from any restaurant, I can just remember to save it in Instagram as one of my links for future. But I might become a client in a few months, but it still works. I think 24/7. Christina, what's your thoughts regarding this topic?
I actually agree with Lionel. PR and marketing is a great tool and it's great support, which is the industry can support to be and to create from the average restaurant to the great, but it needs consistency and it really needs time. So it doesn't have to be in 6 months or 1 year even. So the same, I think this is the same tendency as in sport, the consistency beats the intensity. So you have to be consistent in your PR and marketing strategy. Then yeah, sure, definitely you can create with average restaurant to the great restaurant.
Sure. And of course, I'll ask Alexei, but since in this case you're the last one to answer, and sometimes it's difficult to bring something new when you're the last one in the queue, I will update my question. Speaking about PR, we're not talking in this case about average restaurant, we talk about excellent restaurant, but maybe you could also share some of the PR examples and strategies maybe that Sakhalin has, and it would be also interesting to listen.
I think that PR and marketing is really important for restaurants anyway. So because of how can I say? Because PR can bring the guests to restaurants first time.
Mhm.
You know, Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
So, for example,
the first touch with the
y-
client. Yeah.
yes, first touch, influencers, media, and etc. Can create excitement and fully book restaurants for opening. But I think uh, the good food, perfect food, service, and overall experience can make for these guests return. They can return only because of good food and service. That's it. And PR can support in it.
Sure. Now my next question is a typical Instagram question. I just mentioned it because, of course, we'll be using also this webinar in order to create reels and promote this video and your accounts on Instagram. So, what do I mean by typical Instagram question? Let's go to the like top three or top five type of question. Very easy. In this case, of course, I would ask you, what are the top three things that instantly tell you that a restaurant is actually truly exceptional, according to your experience? So in this case, I'd like to start with Alexei, and then let's move on with Christina and Lionel. So Alexei, top three things about exceptional restaurant according to your opinion.
Mm, loyalty, uh, good food, and service.
Definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay. Uh, Christina, what do you think?
Yeah, it's basically the same, the attention to details, the interior, and the good food. So this is basically the three topics which are always, matters.
Sure. Okay, Lionel, maybe from your experience and again, no, from PR experience, what would you
Yeah.
say?
Yeah, so I think obviously good food is very important. I think that that's like that has to be like a standard. If it's not there, then what's the point of a restaurant? For me personally, I think atmosphere is also important. I think there's some restaurants that you go to and yeah, it might be full, but if there's not a good vibe about it, if there's not a good sense about being in the restaurant, I think it changes quite a lot of people's experiences. And when I mean like a good vibe, I mean like the music is right, the service is good, and like the way people are moving around makes sense. I think those things are important. And I also think, lastly, just I don't know, just I think a lot of the successful restaurants do, instead of just serving you food, is making you feel something, right? Like you remember certain gestures, you remember that the waiter knows your name, or it was very attentive, or was good at detailing what was on the menu and things like that. So I think those are important for any restaurant visit. And like Alexi said, our job is to make that first contact with the customer, but the restaurant has to keep them coming back. And I think those things are important to getting them to come back.
Yeah, the overall experience. By the way, just an open question, but do you agree with the fact, because I've never had a chance to ask executive chief or general manager from a restaurant chain or senior director from from this industry, do you agree with the fact that one of the things that actually tells you that the restaurant has a good quality of food and you can trust this restaurant, especially if you go there for the first time, is the fact if the bathroom is actually clean and well organized or not. Do you agree with this statement? Because I've heard it many times and from different people, but I don't know if you have the same opinion. Who wants to start? It's an open question. Joel, you
Um,
can
I,
start.
I guess I'll go first. I don't think I've ever heard that, but I worked on a client called Cartuli, which I still do a bit of work here and there for. And it's an authentic Georgian restaurant, which is like downtown Dubai. And it's I don't think it's more of a cleanliness thing for them because the bathroom is spotless. I mean, it's owned by two females, two women, sorry, and they, obviously every detail has to be perfect. But the important thing about the bathroom is how it looks. You walk into their bathroom and it's almost like you're walking into a different world. And I think a lot of people don't really care much about bathrooms, especially when they're decorating. I don't know. Maybe Christina and Alexi have more to say on the thought that goes behind bathrooms. But that's one bathroom, the Kartuli bathroom, that I always think about for some random reason because of how it looks. And even when I'm sending out press releases or anything on them, I stick in a picture of the bathroom because it just looks so amazing. So I think there's something to a bathroom being important, but I'm not sure if that's the reason why people go. But maybe Alexi and Christina have different opinions.
Alexi, what do you think?
Of course, the guests, they feel everything, they see everything, and everything should be perfect everywhere. Doesn't matter it's a bathroom or dining hall, everywhere, especially kitchen and host.
Then definitely. Christina?
I agree. Actually, it's not the first thing which you mentioned, but it matters, and definitely, whether you have some issues in the toilet, that means it's not the only issue in the restaurant, unfortunately.
Great. I have two questions, but I'll ask the first question because my last question I want to keep it for the end because it's definitely a question to finish the webinar, and we already have some questions from the audience. So let's go with my pre-last question, and in this case, I'd like to talk a little bit about trends. So we know that, especially when we talk about food, there are always some trends. Like healthy food, something for longevity, etc. And they're always different. Sometimes, as I said, we focus more on the healthiness. Sometimes we focus more on something exotic. According to your opinion, what food trends do you think are overhyped right now, and why is that? Or maybe you think that there is no trend which is overhyped. That would also be an opinion. So, Christina, maybe we could start with you in this case. What's your opinion about it?
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think the trend of the healthy food and generally, on the healthy way of life, it will be last for like the next 10 to 20 years, because I think this industry growing very fast, and it's, the whole and common thing which we are going. But at the same time, I think the most uh, trend which will not last for a long time is Instagrammable. So in terms of the some hype presentation, some show, fireworks, and that's it. And this, I think, it doesn't really will long for a long time.
Well, it sounds like it's something positive for the industry in general, I think. Uh,
It is, and to be honest, industry now becoming very more and more, attention to details and to the healthy products, to the clean products without many of the spices, sauces. So you see, many restaurants are going to raw products and fresh products. So I think this is the trend which will stay with us for a long time, instead
mhm.
of this show and fireworks things.
Sure. Alexei, what do you think? Is there any trends that are overhyped right now in the
Mm.
market?
Mm. Uh, of course, healthy food is a trend, definitely. But I think that trends based mainly on the visual shock, I said Christina, fire and etc. For example, adding the caviar, truffle, or gold leaf to very how would say, possible dish doesn't automatically make the food luxuries. And the trends that survive are usually connected to something meaningful, better ingredients, healthier cooking, sustainability, everything, or good flavor, and etc. Techniques and presentation changed, but good taste never goes out of fashion. I believe it. True food,
Mentioned this.
truly food.
When you mentioned that gold thing, I already had this image of that Instagrammable steak in my head. So yeah, I know exactly what
Yeah,
you're
for
talking about.
example, you can see, especially in Dubai, everywhere, a lot of restaurants that showed uh, gold leaves, too much caviar, and for the small pieces, some food. For me, this is, of course, this is good food anyway, especially if it's a set restaurant, not a la carte as a Sakhalin. So, but mostly people want to eat real food.
Yeah,
So that's why
that's
real food
definitely
is trend also.
sure.
Real, true, truly, and understandable food. This is the best trend for all time.
100%. Leonel, what do you think about trends and their overhype?
Yeah, I'm not a fan, and I have to agree with Christina and Alexi about the tableside show. I personally, this is even outside of my profession, I hate it. I do not want anyone coming and doing fire near my table or cracking something or just put the food on my plate and let me eat it. I can't stand it. I could talk about this for days. Okay, anyway, I'm going to move on though. The other two trends that I think are a bit overhyped and will die down, I think matcha is another one. It's another one of those ingredients that has been, overused, overhyped, and everyone has a matcha something, a matcha drink, a matcha cake. It's just matcha everywhere, and I personally think that it doesn't taste that great. Again, my opinion. So I'm not a big fan. And lastly is oversized foods, right? I don't know why I need to have a croissant that's this big on my table. I don't know why I need to have, a baguette that's the same height. Like I'm six something, 6'1", and like I don't need a baguette that's 6'1". I need just food on a plate that is going to feed me, that's going to be wholesome, that, if you are an artist, if you're like Alexi, where your art is your food and you put it on the plate and it looks fantastic, I'm happy with that. But this oversized, like I have to take a big croissant and then dump it in a coffee mug, and it's just I can't stand it. So those for me are the three trends that I can't wait for them to die. And yes, that's just my thoughts on that.
Thank you. I'd like to mention some of the comments from our audience. We have a lot of comments actually from different platforms. It's not a question, but we have some comments from our Instagram live broadcast. So someone with the nickname Nevermind says that there is a restaurant in London where people goes mostly because of the restrooms. Never mind. If you're still online, you can share the link of the restaurant. It would be great to see. And also another comment. I agree with Lionel. The vibes and the environment is very important. Therefore, also the music, which is in Dubai, is often too loud. It doesn't allow people to connect. Food should be about connection. I think it's actually a very important statement, right? I
Yeah.
think we would agree that if food is about connection. Quite often, the restaurant is the good place for the first date, I guess, according to my experience. And also another comment: Asian food is overhyped trend. This is actually a very interesting topic. I'd like to see your opinion. So, never mind. Says that
I
some
actually have a
Asian.
contradiction to that. For
Yeah.
example, I think Italian food is overhyped. Again,
Oh
sorry,
no.
this is my. I definitely think Italian food is overhyped. I have an African palate, so of course I'm used to like more spicy food, like a lot of mixes, like a dish will have maybe 23 ingredients. I find that Italian food is very bland. I find that it doesn't have, you know, those characteristics that I'm used to. Again, personal opinion. Please don't kill me in the comments. But yeah, I think, and I actually prefer Asian food because I find that, you know, Asian cuisine plays around a lot more with flavors, and it does a lot more to the palate than Italian food.
Well, I love both actually, Italian and Asian food.
Yeah.
So in this case, I at the same time agree and disagree with you. I don't know, Christina or Alexi, do you have your thoughts regarding Asian food? Do you actually think that it's a trend right now or not? Alexi, maybe we could start with you.
Yeah, I have an opinion on this. I think Asian food, it means in Dubai right now or everywhere all the world.
Let's talk about Dubai. We're mostly focused on Dubai right now. Yeah.
Yes, and about Dubai, I would say this is not overhyped, but anyway, too many projects who say us about Asian, for example, different Japanese restaurant, but Italian as well. Uh, if say about if tell about our restaurant, this is like a part of our cuisine, and of course we try to compare it with other restaurants, and we try to do it the best. So in general, I'm not I'm not sure that it's overhyped, but anyway, it's popular in Dubai.
Mhm.
But Italian cuisine, as said Lionel before, yeah, it's I guess more hype. It takes more hype than Asian cuisine.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure. Christina, would you like to share your thoughts about it?
Um, well, I would not say that Asian food is overhyped now in Dubai because, to my point of view, there are many cuisines now, and it's actually Dubai looks like Babylon for me. So you have really international cuisines, whatever you want, you can find here on the market. So it's not actually, only the Japanese food or Asian food, let's say. I would not say like this. With Italian food, it was a trend for a long term, I would say, because even I saw in the news that even UNESCO put the Italian food as a um,
Heritage.
treasure, world treasure. So yeah,
I've
I
heard
think
about it,
that
yeah.
the owners of the restaurant, they might think that this is a good idea to open the Italian restaurant, but it's as well, it depends, because to open Italian restaurant and to have good proper Italian food, it doesn't always the same.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't see any overhyped, none in Japanese, not, I mean, Asian, and not of the Italians. I think in Dubai, I can see so many different cuisines here, international, and to all to all tastes you want. Dubai is really exceptional city in this kind of way, because you can find easily, whatever you want.
yeah, I totally agree. And speaking about Italian food, what you've just mentioned, and I experienced it also myself. And you can go to any Italian restaurants all around Europe. I've been living in Barcelona for almost 20 years of my life, and I visited some of the Italian restaurants. But then suddenly you go to Italian restaurants in Rome, and you realize that probably some of the restaurants that you visited before, they were not so Italian actually. So,
Exactly.
all right.
Well, I
Um,
will be in Italy later this year to try out and figure this out. So I will come back and let you guys know my real thoughts.
we do another webinar for that. So yeah, let's
Yeah,
let's see your experience. We're going to the end of our webinar. So let's just go through some of the questions and comments from our audience. Well, the first one from Stefan. This is for Christina and Alexia. I love portion Sakhlin. Best. Thank you guys. Thank you, Stefan, for sharing your thoughts with us. Let's go with the question from Nick. I'll put it on the screen. If you could change one thing about Dubai's restaurant industry today, would it be and what would it be and why? Alexei, maybe we can start with you.
Mm. The quantity of restaurants.
That's a smart answer. Yeah.
Yes. I, what would I change? What would I change? Actually, in restaurant industry in Dubai, for me, everything is I satisfied everything. I would not change nothing, not for now. Maybe later.
Well,
More chefs, more uh, world chefs when they come to here, important chefs. I mean, and the competitors here will be, I would say, higher than now. It's
sure.
good. It's good opportunity for your own growth or your own, yeah. I would say like that.
Okay. Christina, what would you say in this case?
I would definitely change the seasonality because during the low season when the weather is extremely high and we're still struggling, because everybody is leaving Dubai. So, but it's not basically in terms of the restaurant industry. It's general. So in restaurant industry, I would definitely reduce the quantity of branches with the party place. I would say it's a bit overcrowded in Dubai compared to the capacity of the city. So I would definitely reduce the party places. Yeah.
Lionel?
I think for me, it would be two things. I think one is, I think how the industry treats its workers. I think that because I think there's a lot of things that happen within restaurants when it comes to the certain staff and their treatment that I think could be done better. I feel like a lot of the time restaurants don't take they don't take action when it comes to how the well-being of employees, and I think that restaurants could do a much better job when it comes to that. And the second thing, it was just in my brain and I completely forgot, but yeah, I'll just go with that. I think for me that's the biggest thing. I think the treatment of people. I think you feel the difference when you walk into a restaurant where you can see that the staff gets along, everyone is happy to come to work, and there's a good vibe about the place, as opposed to a restaurant where you walk into and you know that this waiter is not happy, or something like that. You can tell the difference of how they serve you, how they tell you about the menu, how your experiences overall. So I think that yeah, I think that that's a big thing that I would like to see changed in the restaurant industry for sure.
I would like to highlight the last question from our audience because we have some other questions, but maybe afterwards offline we can answer them in the chat. But this question is also linked somehow to the ones we just discussed. So from Valerie Vogue, what do you think Dubai's restaurants are still missing compared to cities like Tokyo, London, or Paris? So we talked about some things that could be changed in Dubai itself, but maybe when we have to compare Dubai with some other major cities all around the world in terms of the restaurant business, maybe there are some tips and things that could be implemented. In this case, let's start with Christina. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, yeah, I definitely think that if we compare with the megapolis and with the big cities like London and Paris and Tokyo, the difference is that Dubai is quite brand new, city, and it doesn't have so much culture in it, and as well, if you are um the restaurant opened maximum, I think, maybe for 10, 20 years, since that. And there are many restaurants in London and in Paris who are existing for 50 years, for 60 years. So it's like family business, and people might really have loyal guests, and for a long time, for the whole life. So of course Dubai is a brand new city, and it's just started to be very, very popular among the all the people around the world. So everybody comes, but still doesn't have so much history in it because of the you know just 54 years, correct? So yeah,
Yeah.
so this is the difference. And it takes time, but I think still, it will come to Dubai.
Mm-hmm. And Alexei, what do you think, maybe from the chief perspective?
Mm, of course, I think Dubai has in the future anyway can compare. We can compare with the cities as London, Paris, and Tokyo. Because here, for now, a lot of concentration of international talents, chefs, big, huge restaurant groups. So luxury hospitalities, and anyway, in the future, it will Dubai will be, I would say, like a gastronomic capital of the world. One of the capital.
Definitely, definitely.
Definitely,
Uh,
yes.
Leonel, what would you say?
I think for my side, I think it would. I think that local foods is important. I think if you look at these countries like Tokyo, London, and Paris, I would imagine that their produce doesn't have to travel for too long to get to the restaurant. And Alexi, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing that in those countries, the food doesn't have to travel that long. And I feel like a lot of restaurants have this, and I think it's not just restaurants, I think it's across the board. You drive down the street in Dubai and you'll see like British dentists or and then I'm thinking, okay, why is the British dentist better than the Indian one? Why do we have to make that difference? And I think it's the same with food when it comes to the food. I think that if a lot of restaurants choose to do and work on more locally grown produces, use more locally grown things at a point where, because I know a lot of stuff is not locally made in Dubai, so you obviously have to get it from outside. But I think as the industry grows, the agriculture grows with all the new technology that's coming in, you're going to find that there will be a lot more produce that can be used, right? And I think it's important that if I don't know whatever source of either meat or vegetables takes less time to arrive on my plate, I think that it does make a difference in taste. And again, Alexi, you can correct me if that's incorrect, but I would imagine that if I get beef coming in from Japan all the way to Dubai, whereas something that I get from Russell Hayman, there will be a difference in taste because time has had its has had its hands on both pieces of meat. So I think that once we look at more locally produced things, I think that things might get Dubai to get to the same level as the Londons and the Tokyos and Paris. I think it's a big one.
Awesome.
Yes,
So,
you're right.
yeah, I totally agree. Just one last question before we finish our broadcast. The one which I actually saved for the end, and it's to certain extent, it's probably a personal question, but I think it's very interesting to answer it. Of course, no one will ever find themselves in this situation among us, but in case if you can decide what's going to be on your table for your last meal, what would it be? Uh, Alexei, I would like to start with you, and then let's move to Christina and Leonel, and that would be the end of the webinar.
Mm, I guess mashed potato with chicken, with chicken breast or chicken leg.
Okay, great.
Simply tasty, delicious food. That's it.
Totally agree. Christina.
Well, we don't have it in the menu, but we are working with chef for almost 5 years together. And one of our restaurants, he been making the orza with the crab meat. So since it was my favorite, and unfortunately we don't have here in the menu, but I would prefer to eat this. So
All
orza
right.
with crab meat, yeah.
Okay, great. So, Leonel, what would you say?
So I'm an African, so it would have to be like some like African dishes. Especially specifically, I'm Central African, so we eat a lot of like cassava. We eat a lot of like plantain. We eat a lot of like herbs and things like that. So it would have to be. I can't pick, to be honest. There's so many things that are good on the plate. So I would just be like, find me anything from my home, and I will be happy for that to be my last meal, and I can go in peace.
I think it's a great answer. All right. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you everyone who was watching our webinar live. And we had over 200 people watching us live from all over the platforms, and we know that there are many of you who's watching this afterwards. You can still leave your questions and leave your comments, and if you have an opportunity, we will try to answer them afterwards after the broadcast. Again, Alexei, Christina, and Leonel, thank you very much for your time, and see you online. Thank you.
All right, super. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you. Bye.